Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien, Hanley, and welcome back to Steelers Almighty, everybody. Appreciate everybody being in here. It's a big week for the Pittsburgh Steelers, ladies and gentlemen. So we have got a good show for you guys today. Look, we're talking Aaron Rodgers. That's the story of the last couple of days. Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going to talk about that today, what it looks like, and put it all together. First things first is why did he choose the Pittsburgh Steelers? You know, was there a bunch of other options? Obviously retirement was out there, but we're going to talk about why he chose the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, what will the offense look like with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback? I know a lot of people had their speculations. I do too. But we'll talk in a little bit more detail on what the offense is going to look like. Then next up is that what are the expectations for 2025? Like with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, I'm assuming that changes. We'll talk about it and more. And then the future. What is the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers? They have a plan. I think there's a lot of us out there that are talking about what that plan is. Does it change? We'll dive into all of that and more. So we got a lot to go over today, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So thank you guys for joining us as always. Again, weekly, you can find us youtube.com/Steelers.com or SteelersAlmighty.com, excuse me, on YouTube. Also, anywhere that you have social media, you can find us at Steelers Almighty. And if you prefer the audio version of this podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us at Steelers Almighty. So let's dive into this head first, ladies and gentlemen. First things first. Why did Aaron Rodgers choose Pittsburgh? Well, look, the obvious things is he didn't have a lot of options. Let's just put that out there. You know, there wasn't 20 teams beating down the door for the services of Aaron Rodgers. We can all be honest about that. The first thing is that he was with the Jets. The Jets decided to move on. Well, the reason the Jets moved on, they got a new coach, they got a new general manager, just a new regime in general. And Aaron Glenn, the famous, he asked him, did he want to play football? Aaron Rodgers said, I'm intrigued. That wasn't the answer that they were looking for, and they moved on. Aaron Rodgers didn't like the way he was treated. We weren't in the meeting. We've only heard one side of what it was. The Jets aren't saying anything because they're like, we're moved on, or we have moved on. I get it. Rodgers didn't like it, thought he deserved a little bit more respect than that, but it is what it is, man. And so the Jets were not an option. They moved on. So another team that had speculated was the Minnesota Vikings, and it damn near followed Brett Favre's path. Go from the Packers, play forever, then you go to the Jets, and then you go to Minnesota. That was a lot of talk there. Minnesota said, no, we're good. We got a rookie that we really, really like. And actually, he's a second-year guy. He just didn't play last year because of a knee injury. Thank you, but no thanks. So they have moved on. Then there was talk about the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints, just in all honesty, the Saints aren't trying to win football games this year, people. They're not. They had Derek Carr. Derek Carr retired. He just thought, and I commend Derek Carr. He came out and said, look, I could have just been hurt, took their $30 million and went home. I don't know too many people that would have said, you know what? I need this surgery. I'll go ahead and rehab it. I'll collect $30 million knowing that I'm not going to play football ever again. And he didn't do that. So I give the man credit, but the Saints aren't trying to win. They got a rookie first-year guy. They got a couple of other guys back there, but we'll see. It doesn't sound like they're wanting to trade everybody because, again, the Steelers are trying to get Chris Olave, but you need somebody to throw the football to. But that wasn't an option for him. And quite frankly, I'm not sure it was an option for Aaron Rodgers. He just came from dysfunction as far as an organization with the Jets. Why would you go back to that? I mean, look, we can love the owner, Mrs. Benson from New Orleans, but that's dysfunctional there. General manager Mickey Loomis, been there forever, doesn't know what he's doing. It is what it is. Not to mention they're in salary cap hell. It's a nightmare in New Orleans right now. So that wasn't an option. So why the Steelers? Well, the Steelers pursued him, number one, and we were willing to wait for his timeline. Now, maybe the other teams were interested, but they weren't willing to wait on Aaron Rodgers' timeline. The Pittsburgh Steelers were. They said, fine. We're starting to hear a ton of reports right now that it was Mike Tomlin leading the charge on this. Said, no, we can wait. We'll be fine. You know, and even if he spurns us and retires, Mason Rudolph is the backup plan, which so many fans are loving. But Mike Tomlin was like, no, we've got plenty of time. And maybe the deadline was you need to be at minicamp. If you're not going to come to minicamp, then we got to move on. Now, we don't know. Maybe we're never going to know. We don't know what was said. And quite frankly, I don't even really know if that matters. Whether Mike Tomlin or the Steelers said, this is our cutoff. Aaron Rodgers said, well, I'm not coming in, or I'm only coming in at minicamp. We don't know. And frankly, I'm not sure we should even care at this point. You know, what's happened has already happened, and he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. There it is. That's the only thing that we should worry about. Now, he had personal issues that he was working through. You had to give him grace for that. And the Steelers were willing to give him that grace. Now, we don't know he kind of hinted at what the personal issues are. But again, that's another situation, not our business. And if that's what he's saying, then just take him at his word and move on. Again, the Steelers were willing to give him that grace. Maybe other teams weren't. Where a lot of people got sideways with Aaron Rodgers, and I was one of those as well, is like, well, hold on. You have these personal issues, but then you can go fly halfway across the country from California to do podcasts and do live interviews, live shows. You know, that doesn't sound like somebody that, number one, is interested in playing football, but two, doesn't sound like those personal issues are getting in the way of doing what you want to do. And that is absolutely fine. You're under no obligation to be in Pittsburgh because you weren't signed, but don't come out and tell us that that's the reason why you haven't done anything. And then all of a sudden you're doing something else. Again, water under the bridge, because now he's going to be signed to the Steelers. You just got to move past that. And I've moved past that. You know, I was sideways. I was sour about it, not going to lie, but it is what it is. We got to be adults. And in the adult world, you know, everything, you can't just get everything you want. You know, some things you just got to deal with, and this is one of them, and it's fine. There's no issue there. So I also think Aaron Rodgers needed a fresh start. You know, it didn't end well with the Jets. We just talked about, you know, how they ended up releasing him and how that conversation from his point of view went. Didn't go good. They were 5-12 last season. Now, there's plenty of people that want to blame Aaron Rodgers for the entire season. You know how I feel about stuff like that. It's never one person's fault. Aaron Rodgers had a hand in having a bad season. Absolutely. He's the quarterback, and he wasn't phenomenal, but he wasn't as bad as what people try to say. But again, it's a dysfunctional franchise. You know, it's the New York Jets. Woody Johnson is a nightmare as an owner. And I think we all know that just by some of the comments that he makes and some of the decisions that he's made. It's a joke of an organization, and he was part of that. Now, you can say that he had a hand in some of the dysfunction. Okay. It won't be that way in Pittsburgh. So maybe he's looking for something a little bit more stable and say, oh, you know what? I was in a situation. Maybe I got a little uncharacteristically out of my realm, but I don't know. It just, to me, it was a bad situation that he was in, and it didn't go well in New York. He didn't play well early. The first season he got hurt, only played 4 snaps. That's a catastrophe. And then it just all fell apart. It just all fell apart for him and the New York Jets. But another reason that he may have picked the Steelers, because he felt wanted. You know, if the other teams that he talked to, maybe he approached or was approached by, maybe they said, like I mentioned, hey, we need you here by this date. And the Steelers were like, look, we really want you here. We're willing to give you this grace, but we want you to be our quarterback. Period. End of story. We'll get, here's the deadline. This is what it is. Take the time that you need, but you got to be here by this date. We love you. Come on in. And maybe that's what Aaron Rodgers needed to feel, just for a team to just say, look, come in, no rush. We just need you here by this time when we're starting to do the real practices, and let's get it going. And maybe that's what Aaron Rodgers needed. That's what, I mean, look, we all have egos. We all have egos. And there's nothing wrong with having an ego. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be wanted, to wanting to be pursued. And Aaron Rodgers, hey, he's like that. He wanted to be pursued, and he was by the Steelers. It's fine. It's fine. We didn't, and I made comments. I didn't like it. Felt like that we were the side piece that got dumped, and we were just waiting for it. Well, he took us back. The side piece took us back, and here we are. So we're feeling good about ourselves again. So I can be happy about it. But what is Aaron Rodgers actually getting out of all of this? Like what's the goal? I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a four-time MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. So at this age, what's the motivation? Is it money? I find it hard to believe that it would be money. Now, don't get me wrong. Somebody's willing to pay you millions of dollars to play football. I mean, that's a good thing. So I'm not discounting the money, although I believe Aaron Rodgers probably already has a bunch of it, but hey, I don't pocket watch. So getting paid millions of dollars more to play football or whatever it is, more power to you. Take the money. But maybe that's his motivation. Maybe it's not. Does he want to go out on a better note? I think it might have to do more about that, because I just talked to you about egos, and I think Aaron Rodgers has a pretty big ego, and he doesn't want to go out on a note of 5-12, people saying he ruined an organization, got a coach fired. I don't think he wants to go out like that, So I think he's got other things in mind as far as how he wants his career to end. Well, you're with a legendary franchise that's got a coach that most people believe is going to be a Hall of Fame coach, whether we like him or not. Let's see what you can do here. A stable roster, a stable franchise. Let's see what you can do here. That might have a lot to do with it too. So let's go to the poll question, ladies and gentlemen. Poll questions this week are going to be key, going to be interesting. Poll number 1. What do you think was the most important factor in Aaron Rodgers' decision to join the Steelers? What do you think the most important factor was? A, opportunity for a fresh start. B, financial rewards in for the money. So is he in it for the money? C, was his only choice besides retirement? Or D, simply wants to play more ball? Interesting questions, very interesting, very interesting answers, excuse me. But a good question, interesting answers. A, B, C, or D. Remember to put a 1 in front of the answer so we know exactly what poll question you guys are answering. Let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. So, what is the offense going to look like with Aaron Rodgers? There's been tons of speculation out there on what Rodgers wants to do, what he still can do, what his preference is. First off, Arthur Smith is a very proud individual. He's a very proud man. We saw it last year, the game against the Bengals. Russell Wilson goes off, throws for over 400 yards. They win the game because they're throwing the football. The Bengals literally can't stop them. Reports come out later. Arthur Smith was furious. Russell Wilson changing plays. And he's like, look, you're not going to be doing that in my offense. Okay. Well, Russell Wilson kind of had the personality of, okay, fine, whatever. and go along, whatever. Aaron Rodgers is not going to do that. If Aaron Rodgers is out there and a team can be exploited, Aaron Rodgers is going to exploit it. And he's going to keep doing it until they make an adjustment to stop it, which is kind of what Russell Wilson did. And if Arthur Smith comes to him and says, hey, man, this is my offense, you're going to do it my way, Aaron Rodgers is going to say, I don't care whose offense it is. If there's an opportunity to exploit a defense, I'm going to do it. Period. End of story. And that's the way the conversation is going to go. So Arthur Smith still wants to run the football. It's still going to have that kind of an identity. But Arthur Smith is also going to have to do things the way and put some stuff in so Aaron Rodgers can be comfortable. And what I mean by that is some of the plays, some of the concepts are going to have to be what Aaron Rodgers does well. Now, that's part of coaching, people. You can have your offense, you can have your philosophy, but if you have a piece of something here and you're trying to mold it together, and this piece happens to be over here, doesn't necessarily fit with this, you've got to find, and you have to use this piece, you got to find a way to blend it all together and make it work. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers can't do what Arthur Smith is trying to do. That's not what I'm saying here. That's not my point. What I'm saying is that Arthur Smith needs to take advantage of the things that Aaron Rodgers does well and utilize them. That is literally coaching 101. That you have to be able to do that. You can't just, it's my way or the highway. Okay, you can do that, but usually there's bumps in the road and it doesn't work out the way that we want it to work out, or anybody wants it to work out. Aaron Rodgers does things well, certain things well. Utilize that. Why wouldn't you? You'd be dumb not to do that. Play action. That's going to help Rodgers. Running the football is going to help Rodgers. So it's not that we want we bring Aaron Rodgers in here and we're going to throw the ball 50 times a game. We don't need to do that. We don't want to have to do that. I would say if we're throwing the ball 45 times in a football game, we're way behind and we're playing catch up, and it's a problem. So that's not what the Steelers want to do. We don't even need to do that. So complementary football is what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to play with Aaron Rodgers. So the thing is, there's certain fans, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. Aaron Rodgers is not going to come to Pittsburgh and be the savior of this offense or this football team. That is not what we want him to be. Number one, I'm not sure he's capable of doing that anymore. And number two, we don't want him to be the savior. We don't need him to be the savior. We just need to give us an opportunity, have just be another weapon in what the Steelers are trying to do offensively. We'll talk about that a little bit more, a little bit later. But he's not the savior. And I think a lot of people just want to believe, okay, he's here, 12 wins automatically. I'm not saying we can't get to that, but I wouldn't just pencil in 12 wins with Aaron just because Aaron Rodgers is on the team. I think he helps. I think we're a better team today than what we were yesterday with him on it. But he's not the savior, and that's okay. It really is, people. It's okay that he's not the savior. We shouldn't even look at it that way. The offensive line is still going to be the key. Number one, you got an older quarterback. Now, I think Rodgers is going to move around the pocket and around the field a little better than what he did early last year. Like I said, coming off an Achilles injury last season, early on, he didn't look like he could move at all. He got better as the season went on. He got better. His offensive line wasn't spectacular. They were okay. They were average, but he moved around okay. But I think he's going to move around a little bit better. But play action is really going to help him. So the offensive line is going to be key. That run game is going to be key. If we can have a run game and throw Aaron Rodgers on top of that, look out. Look out. I'm not saying it's going to be the greatest show on turf or anything crazy like that, but the Steelers could have a good offense. If the offensive line gels and pops the way a lot of people, including myself, think that it will, well, then we got a run game, and then we got play action, and we got Aaron Rodgers doing the play action. That's a good thing, people. That's a good thing. So Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, they could be in for some really big numbers this year. But again, it's dependent on the offensive line. I'll always put it on them. Offensive line, the middle of the field. Look, I've talked to you guys at nauseum about the middle of the field. And again, going back through the all 22s, and I'm doing the game films right now, Steelers had guys running all over the place, wide open in the middle of the field, people. Just Fryermuth running open, Michael Pruitt running wide open, Darnell Washington, especially Calvin Austin running open. Just guys are open on the middle of the field. But Mike Tomlin's got to stop. He put his thumbprint down. Hell, he came out and said he didn't want use in the middle of the field. But I do believe that there's a reason that he did that, is because he didn't trust the guys that was utilizing the middle of the field. He didn't trust Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson never used it anyway. I mean, in his whole career, that wasn't his thing. He didn't trust Justin Fields to use it. He's going to have to trust Aaron Rodgers. And not only that, Aaron Rodgers is going to do it anyway. Because somebody's running over the middle of the field and they're open, he's going to throw him the football. He's going to utilize the entire the entire football field, and the middle of that, especially because when he really wants to go deep down the sidelines or outside the numbers, if you haven't thrown the ball over the middle of the field, they're just not going to honor you. They did that with the Steelers last year. They did that. So it's going to be key that we continue to do that. Fryermuth, Washington, DK over the middle. I love the fact that we got a quarterback that's going to be able to utilize that and is going to utilize it. Speaking of DK, look, he needs to be that guy. We traded George Pickens, and I've said it all along. I think DK is a better wide receiver than George Pickens. But make no mistake about it, George Pickens was that guy. Now, the on-field, off the field, the effort, some of the antics, the locker room, all that kind of stuff, put all that aside. And I'm not saying not to count it, but just set that to the side and just talk about the talent. I'll never not say this until it isn't true. George Pickens is a top 10 talent as far as wide receiver in the National Football League, and he might be top 5. That's how talented of a guy he actually is. Now, is DK that talented? No. But is DK a better overall receiver? Yes. And he needs to be that. And the numbers need to say that. Now, he can only do so much, if, as far as throwing the ball, catching the ball, that kind of stuff. That's something different. But at the same time, a lot of people talked about, well, if they double team George Pickens, how are they supposed to throw him the ball? Again, I'm going back through all these all 22s. They didn't double team George Pickens that often. There was some bracket coverage from time to time, but it wasn't like teams just, okay, we're going to take George Pickens away and bracket him. They didn't do that. It was more of, we'll play press man to man, and we know that they only run two routes with George Pickens, a go route and a comeback. They rarely run, deep crossers, shallow crosses, dig right. They don't run that kind of stuff with him. They're going to need to utilize DK and do all that because he can do all of that. His route tree is bigger than George's, and they need to utilize that. He's got to have bigger numbers. Look, 66 catches. What was it? 992 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. That's fine. But for a guy making $33 million, I need more. I need more. And, you make over 30 million bucks. I need 1,100 yards. Period. End of story. I need 1,100 yards. So however you get there, that's how you get there. I need 1,100 yards, and I need a minimum of 7 touchdowns. Now, I know it's not all on him, but some of it is. And we need to get there. He can't have the I just got paid slump. And y'all know my philosophy on that. Guys in contract years ball out. The year after they get paid, they take a nap. We can't have that out of you, DK. Can't take a nap, brother. You can't take a nap. We need you this year. We need you. Let's go to the poll question. So, poll number 2. What do you believe is the most crucial factor for the Steelers' offensive success this season? Is it A, a strong performance from Aaron Rodgers? B, the offensive line providing solid protection? C, increased utilization of tight ends? Or D, connection of Rodgers and DK Metcalf? Make sure that you put a number 2 in front of the number that you, or in front of the letter, so we know exactly what poll question that you are answering. I like that one, ladies and gentlemen. I like it. A lot of intrigue. I'll be interested to see what you guys say. We're at the halftime, people. So first off, I want everybody for tuning in. Thank subscribers. Want to thank all the members for supporting Steelers Almighty, man. I absolutely appreciate it. Our season schedule, you guys know what it is. We're live Monday, Tuesday with the big show, Thursday morning, and then we have our podcast on Wednesday. That'll change as the season gets going. So as we get closer to the season, I'll update you on our weekly schedule. Supers, are just one way that you guys can help support the channel. You guys do an outstanding job at that. But again, it's only one way. Make sure that you continue to keep commenting. We love the back and forth. So hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, but always get in the comment section and tell us exactly what you think, whether you like, don't like about it. Members, look, we got the new Facebook member group for the All 22s, ladies and gentlemen. You sign up on the 4th tier, the All Pro level, to be able to watch, to join that group, number one, be able to watch the breakdowns of the All 22. So if you saw some of that this past season, the All 22 that we broke down, we do an entire game on that new Facebook group. So you got to be at level 4 tier or higher to be a part of that. So we appreciate that. For the audio listeners, make sure the link is in the description to join and become a member. So we appreciate that. And last but not least, people, the merch is here. You all have been asking me for it, and it is now available. There's a link that's going to be in the comments section, but if you don't have that link, it's very, very easy. It's just SteelersAlmightyShop.com. It's just that simple. SteelersAlmightyShop.com. Make sure you go there. You'll find all your merchandise. Right now, we got the alcoholic shirts out there. We do have a Steelers Almighty shirt that's also available. So we've got that. Other things are coming. I know a couple of you made some comments like, hey, man, I got some kids. I can't just have these shirts with Thunderbird and Thunderbird Advisory. There's other shirts that, number one, there's another Steelers Almighty shirt there, and the other stuff is coming on the way. But we wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. So we appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for all your support. Let's get back to it. Okay. So 2025 expectations. What does that look like? Well, let's start with 2024 as far as Aaron Rodgers. And that's what we're talking about, the expectations. 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with 63% completion percentage. Now, you are going to try, there's people out there that are going to try to convince you that those numbers equal somebody that's washed up. Oh, he's washed. He's washed. He can't play. Since when did almost 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns with 11 picks, and 63% completion percentage, when did that equal washed? Like, in what world? What stratosphere? Like, when did that equal that? Now, I know the record was bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you that it wasn't bad last year. But you also know that it wasn't all his fault. So I'm not going to just sit here and let people just blame the entire Jets season on Aaron Rodgers. I'm not doing that. That's just stupid. It's never just one person's fault. But you're not going to be able to convince me that that's washed. Now, look, the 11 picks, the last 2 years that he's played football full season, he's had double-digit interceptions. That is true. In 2022 in Green Bay, he had 12. 2024, last year, he had 11. The previous seasons, it was previous 11 seasons, he didn't have double-digit interceptions. So you might say, okay, well, he's getting older, now it's starting to become a trend. Okay. Maybe he's lost some arm strength. Okay. but it's still 11 interceptions. There's quarterbacks out there that have 16, 17 interceptions out there that are playing fine. So it's I get it. I'm just not in the business of calling those numbers washed. Anybody that does that, either they're trolling or they're not serious football people, because it isn't. Now, there's also context to some of that too. You could say, hey man, they kept losing these football games. They did games and he got blown out. He said, and I totally understand that. But and he didn't look good early. He did not. I can say he didn't look good early, but he got it together. That Miami game was early. Looked good in that one. The Jacksonville game, you look good in that one. You know, all these losses that they had, and they went on some losing streaks. You know, he didn't look he didn't look great, but he wasn't horrible. That's not a washed up quarterback. You can even go back and look at the Steelers game that he played. Like, he threw the one interception to Beanie Bishop. That was a great play by Beanie Bishop. Then the other interception that Beanie Bishop had, the ball hit the receiver in the chest and bounced out. What else you want a quarterback to do? You go hand it to him. I mean, it was 25 yards down the field on the sideline on a rope. The ball hits the receiver directly in the chest. What's a quarterback supposed to do? You know, good play by Beanie. He was there to make the catch, but it is what it is. Like I said, not washed. I'm never going down that road to say that. You know, now if he had 2,600 yards with 18 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, then we could start having a conversation about somebody being washed. Yes, but not with those numbers from last year. No, I'm not going to look at it. So his last 9 games, he had a bad outing. One. You know, I guess you might say the San Francisco game, but he didn't play much. I mean, that was the season was basically over. That was the last game of the year. But the Minnesota game, I'll give you. You know, 3 picks. They lost 23-17. That wasn't a good look in the last 9 games. But other than that, and even in that game, he got pummeled. You know, and he gave up 3 sacks, or they didn't give up 3 sacks, was sacked 3 times, and again, I'm not going to blame all the sacks on the offensive line of the New York Jets either. Aaron Rodgers was holding the football a little bit too long. That happens. You know, he's holding the ball a little bit too long. He was rusty to start the season last year. There's no doubt. But look, it's an Achilles injury, you know, and I know Rodgers came back and he had some holistic medicine and, you know, he said he was back sooner than expected until he got on the football field and we watched him run around. It takes a year. Most people will tell you it's an 18-month injury to get back to 100%. Well, when he steps on the field week 1 for the Steelers, it will have been 2 years since that injury. So he should be fully recovered. Now, he's older. There's no doubt about that. He's 41 years old, so he's older, but fully healed from the injury. Maybe we can see a little bit more of athleticism, which I think we will. Not what he was 5 years ago. Stop that. We're not going to see that. We're not going to see 5 years ago arm strength. But make no mistake, Aaron Rodgers can still throw that football, people. He can still throw the football. He's still a better thrower of the football than probably 90% of the National Football League. So there's that. What does success look like? You know, what does it actually look like? I've said it repeatedly that Mason Rudolph could win 9 to 10 games with this current roster. With the schedule, the roster that we have, and with his ability, the Steelers could win 9 to 10 games with Mason Rudolph. And I've said the same thing. Aaron Rodgers is 2 games better than that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm penciling in the Pittsburgh Steelers to win 12 football games. Doesn't mean that at all. But what I'm just telling you is that Rodgers is better than Rudolph, and he is. And he can win more football games than Mason Rudolph. And he can. It's just that simple. And to think otherwise is silly. Unless that cliff that Aaron Rodgers has fallen off of or is going to fall off of is strictly downhill and he just jumps off the cliff, he gives the Steelers a better chance. So that's what I'm talking about when I say what does success look like? Competing in a playoff game. That is success. You know, and look, I trust me, guys. I want to win a playoff game. Y'all know what I've always said. If the Steelers could make the playoffs without winning a regular season game, I'd take it if that meant they won 2 playoff games. Okay? So I get it. I totally get it. We want to win. But also, there's a thing called building to success. And you don't just go from being, a lot of us think the Steelers are mediocre, and I think that's a fair assessment. We're mediocre right now. You don't go from that to highly successful overnight. And if you do happen to do that, it's usually luck, and luck doesn't last. There are building blocks to success. You don't just, okay, I'm mediocre and I go to success and I just stay there. No, because you don't know how to stay there. You have to build up to being successful, and then that way you know how to stay. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do. So while I want to win a playoff game, I will be pissed off if we make the playoffs and lose again. You know what will make me even more pissed? If we get blown out in a game. So at least be competitive in a playoff game. If we can do that, then yeah, we got a chance. We got a chance. You know, doesn't mean that Rodgers is even the quarterback of the future, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's what I think successful looks like. Winning more games, being competitive in the playoffs, winning a playoff game. Because again, I think Rodgers gives the Steelers a better chance to win a playoff game than Mason Rudolph. I'm never going to back off of that, you know, and not being the reason that we can't compete. I think that's a big thing. Because basically, since 2020, the reason that the Steelers haven't competed, now there's other issues. I mean, the line sucked. The defense wasn't always up to snuff. But the big thing that was missing was quarterback play. And that's the last 2 years have been too. We just didn't have good quarterback play. And especially the last 3 years, they've been the reason that the Pittsburgh offense wasn't any good, is quarterback play. So wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be great if the Steelers are in this season playing football and the quarterback is not the reason that they can't move the football? He can't complete a pass. You know, it would be great if that is the situation. You know, the most important position, a lot of people say in sports, debatable, but whatever. It's definitely the most important position on a football team. It'd be great if the Pittsburgh Steelers had one of those guys that wasn't the reason that we can't win at the level we want to win at. That would be great. That would be great. Now, I know the level that some of you are going to say, well, we want to win at Super Bowl level. I do too, but we're also got to be realistic. We got to be realistic. But I know this, the quarterbacks that we've had over the last 5 years and before Rodgers got here were not capable of winning a Super Bowl. You know that, and I know that. He gives us a better chance. So just don't be the guy that keeps us from being able to be as good as this roster and coaching staff can get us. Just don't be that person. You know, a lot of people are saying, well, he's the third best quarterback in the division. And I think that's 100% true. Absolutely. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow they are better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers. But last, I would say the Steelers had the third best quarterback in the division. You could probably even say maybe even, well, not fourth after what happened in Cleveland, but they were a game away from finishing second or finishing fifth in the AFC and going to Houston. If they'd have beat Cincinnati the last game that we played, then we would have been fifth, a 5 seed, and still the third best quarterback in the division. But here's the thing. Yes, we're the third best quarterback in the division. Number one, how many teams have better quarterbacks than Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow? Kansas City and Buffalo? Who else? So there's that. Not many teams in the entire National Football League have quarterbacks better than those two. Number two, as good as Lamar Jackson is, and as good as Joe Burrow is, don't we always find a way to beat him at least once? So as bad as our quarterback play has been, we still beat those guys, and they're really, really good. So that's the thing, guys. It's like, yeah, we have the third best quarterback in the division, but I don't think that means anything. Number one, because a lot of people don't have better quarterbacks than them. And number two, since when does always having the best quarterback mean that you're going to have the best team? Because again, we beat them on a regular basis. We beat Lamar Jackson. We beat Joe Burrow. We beat them on a regular basis. And we, in any of those games, when's the time that we've gone into it with the better quarterback? So that part has to matter too, people. That part has to matter too. That's all I'm saying. Let's go to the poll question. Poll number 3. Which game will be the most season-defining game for the Steelers in 2025? Is it A, Week 7 at Bengals, B, Week 13 versus the Bills, C, Week 16 at the Lions, or D, Week 18 versus the Baltimore Ravens? So what game will be the most influential or season-defining? It's a good question. I'll be interested to see your answers. Make sure you put a 3 in front of the letter so we know exactly which poll question you guys are answering. Let's move on. Now the future. Ladies and gentlemen, what do the Pittsburgh Steelers do in the future? Does the plan change in 2026 because Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback? First, right out of the gate, hell no. I don't think the plan changes at all. And when I say that, the Steelers have to take a quarterback high in the draft, identify who they want, a couple of guys who they want, and go get them. Go get them early. We've got the draft capital. It looks like that we potentially have 12 draft picks coming into the draft in 2026 in Pittsburgh. Go make it happen and go get some guys, or go get the guy that you think is going to be your future quarterback. I don't care what happens this year. The Steelers could go out and win the Super Bowl. You still go to 2026 and you draft a quarterback high in the first round. You move up to go do that. It's exactly what you do, because you still don't have your franchise quarterback. I know there's a ton of people out there that's saying that Will Howard is it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. You can't pin your hopes on a 6th-round draft pick to be your franchise quarterback. Am I just sitting here guaranteeing that he's not going to be that? No, I'm not. Am I rooting against him being that? Absolutely not. He went to Kansas State for 4 years, which is where I went. So I'm rooting for him. But I understand, and I'm a realist, 6th-round draft picks don't just fall on trees to become franchise quarterbacks. And I know everybody will bring up Brock Purdy and everybody will bring up Tom Brady. Okay, great. But count them in the last 20 years, how many times that has happened. And that's what you're counting on. I think it's foolish. Not to mention, why does competition hurt? Competition never hurt anybody. And if Will Howard is good, but if you can draft somebody better, why wouldn't you do that? Of course you would. So it doesn't change. That, as far as that is concerned, it does not change. You continue down that path of drafting a quarterback in the first round. Now, here's a little side note to throw in there, or a little dig, is like, what if Rodgers has a good season? The Steelers have a good season. Do you sign him back if Rodgers wants to play another year? Like, does he say, hey, man, I was pretty good. We were pretty good. Can I come back for another season? Do you do it? Now, I know there's a host of you already saying, hell no, nope, time to move on. But I wonder if you would really say that if it was laid out in front of you. Rodgers throws for 3,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 picks. Steelers win a playoff game. They win 12 games. You're saying, nope, get out, Rodgers. We're done with you? I don't think you would, and I don't think you would have to if he chose to come back. Not to mention, the plan doesn't change. You still take a quarterback. You're telling me that it's a bad thing to have a quarterback sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year? Because a lot of people are under the illusion that the Steelers are just going to draft the quarterback high, put him out there, and he's just going to be great immediately. And I know that Jaden Daniels did that. I know that CJ Stroud did that. And how many other times did that just happen where they were just phenomenal right out of the gate? And we saw CJ Stroud take a step back. Now, part of that was due to their offensive line stinking, but he still took a step back. It happened, you know? So it's not all just sunny and roses. Just because you get the quarterback you want, does it just automatically mean that they're going to be good, number one, and are they going to be good early? There's nothing wrong with sitting and waiting. I've said this a million times, and I'll keep saying it. If Patrick Mahomes can sit, everybody can sit. And there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tell me again about how they had Alex Smith. Well, they had Alex Smith there. Well, they thought so highly of Alex Smith, the very next year they got rid of him. Because why? Because they had Patrick Mahomes. So it wasn't that Alex Smith just went to the bench. He was gone from the football team. So that's what I'm talking about. It's Patrick Mahomes sat because he wasn't ready to play, and they had somebody that could teach him how to be a pro, how to break down this, break down that. You don't think Aaron Rodgers can do that for a rookie? Of course he could. So my question is, would you want him? Would he want us? But I don't think there's any harm. If it now again, it would have to be under the circumstances that he played well and the Steelers did well. Then you could bring him back. If both of those things don't happen, then it's like, well, why are we wasting our time? If he didn't play well or the Steelers, if both things don't happen, it would be time to move on. So that's my thought as far as the future. I don't think you have to change anything at all. I think Aaron Rodgers would be fine if he played well to come back, but I don't think it's a necessity if both those things, if the Steelers don't play well and he doesn't play well, both of those don't happen, you don't need to bring him back. So let's go to the final poll question. Which approach should the Steelers prioritize at QB in 2026? Handing the reins over to Will Howard, A. B. Draft their starting QB in the draft. C. Retain Aaron Rodgers for another year. Or D. Attack free agency and trade pool for their next QB. Interesting. The thing about C, like I said, only if he first off, he wanted to, but only if he played well and only if the Steelers played well. And I think it playing well, that has to include winning a playoff game. If that doesn't happen, what's the point in bringing Aaron Rodgers back? There wouldn't be one. So very interesting. Make sure you guys put a 4 in front of that poll question so we know exactly what poll question that you are answering. So look, ladies and gentlemen, it's here. It's football time. Minicamp is right around the corner. The Steelers have the quarterback that they have coveted all this time. It's been a mixed bag with us fans. Hell, it was a mixed bag with me. Hell, on Thursday morning, I was saying Aaron Rodgers is not serious about winning football games. I still stand by that. Not going to be a hypocrite because some of you are going to call me out and say that. Hey, B, you said he wasn't serious on Thursday. You're right. But now he's part of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So some of you will say, well, B, you're being a hypocrite. You're flip-flopping. All I said was, until Aaron Rodgers signs, I'm getting sick of talking about him. Now he's signed. And y'all know my philosophy. The field mouse can be our quarterback. As long as he can read a defense, get us in and out of a good play, and get the ball out on time, the field mouse can be the quarterback of my Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'll root for him. So if Aaron Rodgers can do that, great. All the other stuff and the fluff and things that come with it, I'll have to deal with it if he plays well. If he doesn't play well, I'll light it up. But as of now, I want him to play well. So that's the only thing that us as fans should worry about. Just hope that the man can still play and that he can play well. Because if he can't, it's a catastrophe. Not only did we get jilted by the guy and begged him, then he stinks on top of that. It would be a catastrophe. It might even be something where you say, because this is Mike Tomlin driven, hey, Mike Tomlin, your seat is about as hot as it gets. So this is a big season for Mike Tomlin. I know that the contract he got, I know that he appears to be closer to Art Rooney II than ever. But fans say otherwise. Fans would be screaming. If this blows up, Mike Tomlin needs to be able to figure it out quickly because the fans are going to come hunting. And we're going to want some answers. Why did we sign this guy? So for everybody involved, let's just hope it works out. Let's hope that Aaron Rodgers can play football. Let's hope that he plays well. Let's hope that the Steelers play well. Because we don't want to lose. As much as people talk about, oh, let's just tank, you would be miserable. Not to mention teams that tank, sometimes those teams don't come out of it. They might tank, but it might take them a decade to get out of it. You want to take that risk? Because I know I don't. I'm not the tanking type, and I'm damn sure not the tanking type. We make a couple of mistakes, and next thing you know, we're a decade of winning 4 and 5 football games a year. We are not that franchise. So let's hope it works out for everybody, man. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you being in here as always. Thank you for your support. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in that comment section. And as always, hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content comes out. Appreciate you guys, and aloha.